The natural route may sound scary for some people, but I always say the natural route is worth trying first because the side effects are zero. In fact, the side effects are only that your body might be better prepared for the surgery.
I'm Heather Grish, and this is the Wisdom of the Body podcast. This podcast explores the idea of body intelligence as the real key to learning the knowledge of life, or what we call Ayurveda in the ancient language of Sanskrit. We do that by connecting with today's creative leaders and experts who will help you listen to your body, trust your gut, and live in deeper harmony with nature. Come join me as we unlock the golden door to clear, direct perception and become very deep listeners. You can find the Wisdom of the Body podcast on Apple, Spotify, and Stitcher. You can also follow us by joining my email at heathergrish.com or on Instagram at heathergrish. I know you're going to love this podcast, so take a second right now to subscribe. Today, I'm here with Michelle Clark. She is the co-owner of Double Dutch Aerobics and a womb wellness coach, specifically focused on helping women eliminate fibroids naturally with the intention of getting pregnant. After 2 miscarriages and multiple doctors telling Michelle she could not have a baby without an abdominal myomectomy, Michelle is now a mom of 3. During a 17-day water fast, Michelle had a fibroid fall out in the toilet. Along with fasting and diet change, Michelle was able to prove her doctors wrong and had children without an abdominal myomectomy. Now she's on a mission to help women heal their wombs for their fertility. Also, Michelle and her husband, Sean Clark, own Double Dutch Aerobics Studio, which is in Atlanta, Georgia. And she is also a world champion in Double Dutch. She's been featured on Wendy Williams, Good Morning America, Essence Magazine, New York Times, and more. And I love Michelle, and I'm so excited that she's here today.
I'm so excited to be here. That sounds like a big person. All those, when you listen to your accomplishments, it's always like, oh, okay.
Well, you are a big person, Michelle. You have a very big personality, and you've done a lot of amazing things in your life.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
And you're always surprising me. There's always something new that you're doing, which is really fun.
Yes, I like to keep it new. Routine actually just, it makes me kind of crazy. Like, I like having different days, or I just don't like anything to get monotonous.
Yeah, it's easy to do that. Before we get into your amazing healing story, I have some questions I want to ask you about your background, because you're a business owner, you're a mom of 3 littles, 3 children under 5 years old right now.
Yes, 4, 3, and 8 months.
Okay, so she's a busy, busy lady. Do you get this? Okay. And she's a world champion in Double Dutch.
Yes.
And you're the only one I've ever met. In fact, when I was a child, I don't think my friends and I even ever attempted to try Double Dutch because it looks so hard.
And that's our specialty, is that we teach anyone in less than 1 minute, guaranteed. Guaranteed.
Even me, though?
Even you. In fact, we literally do little skits where people are like, but what about me? What if I'm not coordinated? But what if my cousin couldn't teach me? But what if I tried every day of my life? We tell people you've never had a Double Dutch world champion and a master instructor teach you. And once you do, you will learn in less than 1 minute, guaranteed.
How did you get into Double Dutch?
Oh, I was jumping. My father, who passed away in September, rest in peace to him, he literally laughs because before I learned how to jump Double Dutch, I would jump in the mirror because I would see girls jumping Double Dutch and I thought it was like this cool thing that older girls did. So I would literally fake jump Double Dutch in the mirror. So I learned how to jump Double Dutch when I was 4 years old. And then first I did street jumping. Then when I was in the 3rd grade, I tried out for the Jammin' Jumpers, which was a Double Dutch team at my school in Brooklyn. And my coach, Miss Payne, who says I was a little wild jumper, she accepted me on the team. And from there, I was on the team until I was in high school. I jumped professionally and I did street jumping, which those are 2 different styles of Double Dutch. And after being on a team, we won the state championship. When you win the state championship, you're then invited to the world championship. And my team and I won the world championship. And so since then, I've always loved double dutch. Now, I didn't know it could be a career. So I actually did theater school. I have a degree in theater from Temple University. I've actually been on SNL, SAG-AFTRA. I did commercials. I did theater. I did all of it. I went to Circle in the Square in New York City, a musical theater school. And then I found out that I could make double dutch a career. And now I'm in love with double dutch aerobics. And what's really funny about that is that I do so much television with double dutch aerobics. Like I just did an Apple commercial. And it's hysterical because sometimes when they give me like scripts, they're like, oh, wow, you're really good. Like, have you done this before? And I laugh. I'm like, I have a whole degree in this. I went to school for this. I just end up doing a major pivot and turning double dutch aerobics into my career, my full-time career.
Wow. And you've managed to figure out how to do a business with this, which is super cool. And you're such an interesting person because I mean, we don't know each other very well. We knew each other, we met online, obviously, and not in person yet. But it just seems like you're a very spiritual person
Yes.
and that you're very connected. And I was sort of curious because you mentioned the fasting part of your story. Is that part of your religion growing up? Like, how did you get introduced to that?
So it's funny you say spiritual because when I grew up, my mother actually would change religions. So, like, we would go to church every Sunday. And then she decided she wanted to be a Buddhist. So then she had all the chanting materials. We're more spiritual than actually religious. So we've always believed in a higher power. It's just in different forms, I guess, if that makes any sense.
Yeah, yeah.
So, in terms of fasting, that's another thing I did get from my mother because she also was always trying new diets. So, she was doing what's called the Master Cleanse. And I know the Master Cleanse is 10 days, and she asked me to do it with her. And so she only ended up doing 6. I ended up doing 10. That was my first time doing like a fast. And I absolutely loved the results. Except right after I would finish the fast, I would then go back to my horrible diet. And that's before I knew that I had to change my diet drastically. But I've been fasting for, how old am I now? I'm 37. I've been fasting since maybe like 22, 23 years old, off and on. And I usually would do it maybe like every 2 years. And then after the Master Cleanse, when I watched the movie Fat, Sick, and Nearly Dead, that's when I stopped doing the Master Cleanse and started doing juice cleanses. And then juice cleanses, when I found out that I had fibroids, whew, I had to decide, what I wanted to do. I looked into a specific juice cleanse and then and I have the recipe in my ebook, Bye Bye Fibroids, but I did that specific juice cleanse for 30 days straight. I drank the same exact juice for 30 days. Then I looked online. I went to YouTube school and I saw 2 women that said they healed from water fasting. And so, just like you asked me, was I spiritual? When I prayed, especially during this time, I asked God, I asked him, should I water fast or should I get an abdominal myomectomy? And I said, God, please give me an obvious sign. I don't want to have to figure it out. I don't want to like try to decipher what you're trying to tell me. I want you to knock me over the head with the obvious answer. So that was part of my prayer. I wanted to really be clear about the message that God was trying to give me. And so my husband and I went to, because you have to talk to the person before you get an abdominal myomectomy. And the doctor it was like an SNL skit. He was so rude and so mean and so blank. Like we would ask him a question and he would just sit there and stare at us. Like it was odd. And we left and my husband was very angry because he thought the guy just didn't want us as patients. He just was very upset. And when we left, I started laughing because I was like, okay, God, there's no way I would let that man touch me in any way, especially with any tools that could cut me open. And the next day is when I started the water fast because I felt like God gave me the answer that I asked him for. And he was very clear. And so I didn't even think about my decision. So I immediately the next day started the water fast. And during the water fast is when I had a fibroid fall out in the toilet. And we took pictures. I was on day 8 of my period. And it literally, I felt the urge to push. And it said plop right in the toilet. And I was screaming. My husband ran upstairs. I actually couldn't dig in the toilet. That kind of stuff disgusts me. So he digged in the toilet, he pulls it out, he took pictures, and we got it confirmed. And I was able to change my options. And clearly, I was able to have 3 children naturally and vaginally. And I did a water birth with Sean Jr. So I was able to do that. Yeah. I hope that answered it. I'm kind of going around.
No, this is
going
great.
around.
And
Yeah.
I think your story is so important for people to hear for many reasons. First of all, the fact that I wouldn't let anybody cut me open either who I didn't feel comfortable
Right?
with,
Because
right?
it's such a major surgery. Like, I have to really trust you. I'm on your table, Like,
Yeah.
it's scary. And that's another reason. What I tell women always is that the natural route may sound scary for some people, but I always say the natural route is worth trying first because the side effects are zero. In fact, the side effects are only that your body might be better prepared for the surgery. There's nothing wrong with surgery. I want to be clear on that. But what I want women to know is I want people to know all of their options. I think what was so heartbreaking for me is when doctors told me my only option to have children was to get an abdominal myomectomy. When the fertility office told me, no, ma'am, you are not going to be able to hold a child unless because I had miscarriages. So they said you can get pregnant, but you won't be able to hold the baby until full term unless you get the abdominal myomectomy. And that just felt so limiting to me because I'm an entrepreneur. So financially, I would have had to come out of pocket, which was about $30,000. Then it's not guaranteed. So you can get scar tissue from the abdominal myomectomy, which you might have to get another surgery for. And I said, I'm going to spend $30,000 and I'm not guaranteed to be healed. Then you have to wait 6 months to try again before you can actually try again because your body has to heal. Then they don't guarantee that it won't grow back. It's just all, for me, it didn't feel like the choice for me. And lastly, you have to get a C-section. If you have an abdominal myomectomy, you have to get a C-section after you have that surgery when you have children. And originally I wanted 5 kids, and they really don't want you to get 5 C-sections. So for all of those reasons is why I chose the natural route, and it ended up working out for me.
And let's go back to this fibroid falling into the toilet, which
Yes.
I'm sorry if this is grossing any of the listeners out, but it's important to know that this is possible. And
Yes.
Michelle, I don't know if you feel comfortable sharing more of the graphic details about it. Would you be willing to?
Sure. I actually have a picture of it so that you could see it in the toilet.
Ooh.
Yes.
Tell us a little bit about how big it was, the color of it, things like that.
So before I did the water fast, I actually shrunk fibroids and cysts that were in my body. So when it was time to push this fibroid out during the water fast, it was about the size of a golf ball. And it felt like a big plump. Like I just felt this urge to push. And I didn't know what, you know what I mean? I mean, it didn't feel like a baby. Not that I knew what a baby felt like at the time. But but I just felt the urge to push because it felt like something heavy was coming out. And it was weird because my period was ending. So when I felt something coming, I kept saying, well, my period's over. Why am I feeling, you know what I mean? Like, why am I feeling this? So when I came home and went upstairs, I felt the urge to push. And literally, I pushed and it said plop right in the toilet. And I just screamed because I was like, oh, snap. Like I heard people say that, but I'll be honest with you, I didn't believe them. So,
Like the people that you learned this juice
yeah.
cleanse from? Yeah.
So on YouTube, one woman said that hers fell out in the toilet, and another woman, hers just dissipated in her body. So she actually didn't have like something.
The big dramatic moment.
Yeah, so there's different ways. Like it doesn't always, what I've learned, even with the ones that I did, I don't call them mine because I don't own them. They're nothing to do with me. But the ones that were in my body, it's not like all of them fell out. Some of them did disintegrate. That's what they call it when it disintegrates.
I like the way you worded that. Those are not mine. I don't have anything to do with those things that were in my body. And yeah, I mean, that's the cool thing about fasting is that it just has this way of, taking the body's resources to chomp out bits that aren't really working well, that are not properly formed tissues, and releasing them, chomping them up, destroying them or letting them go.
Letting them go. Is what did I say? The body knows how to heal itself. You just have to get out of the way. And the way you get out of the way is fasting. It's like you let the body restructure itself because tumors are not supposed to be there. It's just like when I hear women say, oh, the doctor says, oh, I hate this saying. Doctor said, if it's not bothering you, we're not going to bother it. Well, why would I leave a tumor in my body? And I always get a flashback of when I can't remember how old I was, but I know I was in college because I came back for a visit and I was still on my mom's insurance. And I had a doctor's appointment and she made me so nervous because she said, oh, you have a cyst. And I was like, like, oh my God, what's that? And she said, oh, it's okay. It goes up and down with your period. It gets bigger and smaller. It's no big deal. And all I think about is that was the start of the infertility that I suffered later on. So if I had the knowledge that I have now, I would have known, why would I leave a cyst in my body? Why would I leave it there? Why would I leave a tumor in my body? The only thing that happens, especially if the doctors are not saying, so how about we change this about your diet? Or how about we change this because we see you have a cyst, something you're doing is causing this tumor. So instead of saying, if you're not bothering it, if it's not bothering you, we're not bothering it. Let's find out the core of why it's there in the first place. Because if we don't, I'm going to do the same thing and it's only going to get worse or more are going to grow. It's just, yeah. And I was talking to a woman yesterday who I'm going to be working with, and she said, I'm not scared of fertility because I got pregnant before. Man, that scared me because when I was younger, I also got pregnant before. I made a different decision back then. But we think because we got pregnant before, you can always get pregnant. And that is the biggest mistake. Or is it a mistake or is it misinformed?
Well, especially with fibroids, because it sounds like from the data that they happen more in, like, especially in women in their 40s and 50s
And 30s.
and 30s, and that they become more common as you get older. And then there's a bunch of other, obviously, risk factors associated with them. And that many women, in fact, in some cultures, most women will have them
Right.
at some point. So it's a huge deal. And I'm really glad that we're talking about it because of it, because, chances are many of the listeners
Right.
will either have one right now or will have one at some point in their life. And I love that. I guess, were there any signs for you before you knew you had the fibroids?
Now I know they were signs. This is why, we're so misinformed. I literally thought, and this is going to sound crazy, but I had heavy periods. It really got bad. I remember after my wedding, I was 29. And I remember thinking, oh my God, because I didn't have children, at 29, getting close to 30, and this is how misinformed I was. I have so many eggs that I'm releasing. So that's why I thought my period was heavy. And mind you, that sounds so crazy because I'm 29, 30, still misinformed about my period. And I thought, because what I did know was that it was your eggs being released, right? So I thought, but I didn't know you had a certain number of eggs from the time you were born. I didn't know that. I thought, oh my God, because I didn't have a child yet at 29 or 30, I have so many eggs. And that's why my period is so heavy and so painful. This is the ignorance that I believe.
I think a lot of people have thoughts like this because,
That's what I thought. Literally, because I was like, oh my God, I'm getting older and I don't have kids yet. So many being released is just so much. And little did I know that heavy periods was a sign of something being wrong. So, what has to be known is that heavy periods are not normal. You do not have a heavy period because the sky is blue. You have a heavy period because there's inflammation, too much. It's either some form of hormonal imbalance, whether that's PCOS, whether it's fibroids, whether it's just inflammation, whether it's cyst, whether it's endometriosis. But you do not have a heavy period and a healthy womb. They can't coexist. You do not have a heavy period and a healthy womb. A period, a heavy, painful period, is signs of a sick womb. Now, you can also have a womb that's not well and not have a heavy period. Like it could come in other forms, but if you have a heavy period, something is wrong. Something is wrong. And that's what I did not know. I thought it was just bad luck, good luck. Some people have heavy periods, some people don't.
So did you go to the doctor to find out like why you were having this heavy period? Is that
No, I didn't know it was problematic. So I went to the doctor because I wasn't getting pregnant. So I also thought, I've been fighting not to get pregnant my whole life, and I still made some mistakes. And then finally I'm ready to get pregnant and I'm doing all the things and I'm not pregnant. And I'm like, well, what is the problem? So that's why I went to the doctor, because I wasn't getting pregnant. And that's when the doctor told me that I had fibroids. Well, first they did a tube test. They dyed my tubes to see if my tubes were blocked. And then she told me that I had fibroids. And then I went back to the doctor and she told me that I had fibroids. And that's actually the first time I had heard of fibroids. And then it's funny, when she told me I had them, I never heard of it. But then when I watch stuff, I remember hearing about it from other people, but I didn't understand it then. It's like I put two and two together. Does that make sense?
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
Then did they recommend a myomectomy to you then?
So, no, she actually suggested that I go to see, he's a very famous doctor. I actually interviewed him before, Dr. Littman. They suggested uterine fibroid embolization, UFE. So, she actually sent me to Dr. Littman to get a MRI to see if I was eligible for UFE. UFE is uterine fibroid embolization. Now, he was one of the doctors when I interviewed with him. He told me, this is when Cynthia Bailey from Atlanta Housewives was their biggest candidate for UFE. She got a UFE on television. And so she was their biggest, I guess, influencer at the time for the surgery. So this is when he sat my husband and I down and told us we are not eligible for the UFE because we want children. And we were wondering why, because the UFE actually puts little white tubes in the lining where the blood goes to your uterus. And so it blocks the blood from going to because usually fibroids are in your uterus. So it blocks the blood from going there with little white pellets, and then the fibroid dies off. So that's what the UFE is. It's a 1-day surgery, 20 to 30 minutes, and it's non-invasive. So it's not like the abdominal myomectomy. It's ideal for women who already had their children. This is what they sell it as. What's scary? But it's a very high chance that you will suffer a late-term miscarriages because the circulation is being blocked. That's how it kills the fibroid. But remember, that area where the blood circulation is being blocked, that's where your baby will need blood. That's where your baby will be growing. So it's a very high risk of late-term miscarriage. Now, here's what's scary, Heather, and this really scares me now. I was told this 5 years ago. Today, you will hear doctors giving women UFEs who want children. And so the reason that's so scary, and I asked about this on a forum, because I heard the doctor saying UFE is a good option. And I said, well, 5 years ago, I was literally told that it's not a good option because I wanted children. It wasn't a good option to maintain my fertility. And they said, well, we've had, everything changes year by year. They said, we've had some people have children. And all I thought was, that was so scary for me, for the women out there today, because to them, sometimes I feel like they look at it on paper, right? They see that 10 women got the UFE and 6 of them got pregnant. 4 of them couldn't get pregnant, but 6 of them got pregnant. Now, to them, that's good odds, right? But for women who want children, the 4 matter. Do you understand? Those 4 women who can't have children because of the UFE, that matters.
Yeah, the odds being higher doesn't mean it's a guarantee for you.
Right, but I don't even think the odds are higher. I think the odds are more rare. I'm saying that as an exaggeration. So when you ask a lot of doctors about the UFE, the language gets very funny. It's like they'll say, oh, well, I have a client that got pregnant. That's not good enough for me if I have other options that will guarantee that I won't risk my fertility. Do you understand?
Yeah,
Right.
so then you decided not to do that. Then the myomectomy was?
Then he told me the only option I had was a myomectomy. He said, the UFE will not work for you. your only option is an abdominal myomectomy. I asked him about diet in the room. I said, I'm vegan, I'm fasting. He said, we have never seen, they think it's impossible to reverse fibroids. And so he said, and this is the nicest thing that one of the doctors said to me, Dr. Littman specifically, he said, veganism and diet may help you to never go fibroids if you've never had them, or it might help you not get any more, but it's not going to reverse what you already have. So he said, the reason why food won't work for you is because you already have the problem. Now, if you were born vegan, or you maybe at 13 or 14 decided you wanted to be vegan, you have a less chance of growing the fibroids, but it's not going to reverse the problem that you have. The only way that you're going to be able to carry a baby is if you get an abdominal myomectomy.
That is such a shame. And obviously that's not limited to your experience. And did I share with you? Well, I shared with you that I also had a fibroid, and a similar thing happened to me. And I also had a lipoma in my arm. And I had a similar experience where I went to my doctor. I said, I feel this thing under my arm that feels like an orzo.
Right.
And the lady's like, oh, that's just a lipoma, and we don't do anything about those. And I was like, okay, well, I don't want a fatty tumor in my arm. I know you're saying it's not cancerous, it's not going to, turn malignant or whatever. I don't want a benign tumor in my arm.
In my arm.
Just common sense wise, like something is getting blocked when there's something there, and I don't know what's getting blocked. Is it my tricep getting, I don't know. I just don't want that in there. But, because it was so small and I wasn't trying to have, children. It wasn't like keeping me from getting something that I wanted. I think I would have, gone into it with much more of a hunt for a solution.
Yes.
Had it, right? So you did, and you were like, okay. So you said, are there other ways to do this after the myomectomy? Because you didn't like these other options.
I didn't like, but right now I'm so grateful Dr. Littman was honest with me instead of selling me on the surgery. So he told me that. And then I was a little upset at my doctor because why did you send me to him if you know that a UFE is for people who want children? Because I realized she got a kickback for sending me to him when I got the MRI bill and his bill. Why would my doctor send me for a UFE consultation if my entire reasoning for going to her was to check my fertility? That didn't make any sense. Because she knew a UFE was only for people who didn't want any children or after they had children. So then when I came back with her, she said, oh, okay, well, your only option is an abdominal myomectomy, which she knew originally anyway. Then I went to a fertility office. The fertility office is where they ended up counting my eggs. They check everything. So they ended up counting my egg count, checking. We did the ovulation test. We did all of the tests, all of the fertility tests. And they ended up telling me also that my only option would be to have an abdominal myomectomy. During that time, I was asking them about a juice cleanse. Like, what if I do a juice cleanse? And I was still at the doctor who gave me the bad advice. I did a juice cleanse, and I went to get another ultrasound to see the effects of the juice cleanse. And so I did have a period in between there, and the period was a little better. It wasn't as harsh as it was before. So I was expecting to have monumental healing when I went to get an ultrasound. And the doctor, Sean, I always have him in the room with me because he just keeps me calm. So the doctor who was doing the ultrasound, or the ultrasound tech, told me, no, nothing, because I was telling them all of my business. I'm juice cleansing, I'm trying this healing. I was doing all of that. And she said, no, they're the same size. The juicing didn't do anything. Mind you, something was weird. She was pushing extra hard. She was acting funny. Something was weird. So we left the office and I was devastated because I did all of this. I'm vegan. I'm trying to, I did a 30-day juice cleanse. I followed the rules that the woman did on YouTube. She had healing. How come I didn't have healing? Well, Sean said, I think she's lying. And I said, like, they can't lie. Like, why would she lie? He said, Michelle, look at your period this time. It was different than it's been, which means something had to change. Like, you can't tell me it's the same and your period, like you weren't on the floor like you usually are. And I was like, you know what? My period has changed. But me believing doctors, because that's what I've been taught my whole life, I didn't even think that they could not tell you the truth. And so, and this is what I help women with too, we went to a clinic. I paid $100 to get an ultrasound. Actually, It's really a women's clinic, but it's an abortion clinic as well. But you can go there, pay $100 and get an ultrasound. Because doctors are not just going to give you ultrasounds whenever you request it. So we wanted a second opinion. And we found out that the fibroids that I did have shrinkage. And so we found out that the doctor lied to us. So after that is when we had an appointment at the fertility office with the doctor that was then going to do the abdominal myomectomy, because clearly we weren't going to go to the lying doctor anymore. So that's when we stuck with the fertility office. That's when we had the meeting with, in between this, I also had a miscarriage. So I also saw that even after healing, something was still wrong. So that's why we still were going to get the abdominal myomectomy. We just weren't going to go to the lying doctor. So at the fertility office, we had the meeting with him, and he was insane. He just was, I don't know if he was on drugs. It was just a really bad meeting. And after that is when I decided I'm not going to do an abdominal myomectomy. I'm going to do the water fast. So I ended up altogether, between everything, I ended up doing 2 30-day juice fasts, 1 water fast. And
so like you kick it up a notch. You're kicking it up a notch in terms of level of destruction that's going to happen in your body.
Yes, because I realized that, now don't get it twisted, I was really devastated that the first 30-day juice cleanse didn't work. Because for some women, and even some women I work with, that's enough. Like that 1 30-day juice cleanse, that's why everyone's body is different. You know what I mean? I was vegan, I did 2 30-day juice cleanses, and I did a water fast. Yes, so that's my story about how I had Sean Jr. I got pregnant with him, and what was weird is that I feel like, and this is where I say God is, you have plans, you know, I thought I was fighting to have 1 baby, and when Sean Jr. was 5 months, I got pregnant. And I was so surprised because I was like, God, you playing with me? Like, I was trying for 2 years, checking tests, checking ovulation, checking dates, doing this. I had miscarriages. And then boom, 5 months, it's just like, hey, you're pregnant without even like any effort. And then I end up having 3 kids in 4 years. And my periods are 3 days and they're no problem. And every once in a while I do cheat on veganism when I travel, but I'm so nervous that fibroids would like grow back ASAP that I end up cleansing when I come back home. So I do a juice cleanse to clear out my body. And that's how I think I've maintained having a light period and no like painless free periods for the past 5 years.
It's pretty amazing. It's like you unblocked a channel, like literally physically and energetically. And once that channel was open,
boom, the woodworks.
Oh, be careful, Michelle, here it comes.
Right. I'm like, no, wait, God, I'm not ready. I thought I had an issue with like 2 months after Maverick was born. I was like, wait, God, I know. Children are a blessing. I know I have them. But wait, I'm not ready again. I'm just not ready again. Just give me 1 second. And so it's pretty funny to, even just that weirdness of fighting every month so bad to want to be a mom. And then now I'm like, just, okay, wait, be careful.
Right? It's like a dial. It's like turn it on or turn it off. And a lot of women are spending their whole life trying to keep it turned off. And then when they turn it on, they're like, wait. And there's like this tension there and the tension on the other end. But okay, so this is really incredible. I hope it's inspiring some people. I guess, Michelle, what is it? I mean, obviously it seems like you were coming up against some medical professionals that were not really working with you in a way that felt like it had its integrity.
Yeah, I will only say one doctor. Like, although I didn't like what the other doctors said, I didn't like what the doctors were saying, but I think the doctor who ended up making me get the water fast, I think he was just crazy. Like, I think that was God. Maybe he had a bad day. I'm not even mad at him. I'm kind of grateful for him. The doctor that lied to me and sent me to get a UFE, I was so disappointed in her. Oh, like, I can't believe that you would do that to another woman.
Did she even measure them? Like, was she looking just based on memory or did she have measurements of them?
No, she had measurements of them.
Okay.
And I think their goal was just to get me to get the surgery. And I think now I feel like I'm not angry at doctors. Like, I believe in science. Like, doctors, my father had a liver transplant that gave him 6 more years. That's doctors. You know what I mean? I just believe that doctors are scientists and they're not nutritionists. And I think we in society, we have to stop depending on them to be our all. Like we literally depend on doctors to just solve our problems. And I think we have to participate in our healing. So I feel like doctors get a little, I don't know if I could curse, but they get the shitty end of the stick because it's like, well, heal me. I've done all this damage to my body. Now I want you to heal me, like today. And so I think they do that the best way they can. And I think they do things without you having to participate.
Yeah, and you wanted to participate.
Yes. I don't know if I wanted to participate, but
You were called into it somehow.
yes, I didn't like the option of being cut open on a table. And I didn't like the option of not having any control over my fertility and my body. And then also being limited to, so I had a dream of having 5 children. And the abdominal myomectomy would have already shattered that dream before I even went in, you know? And I didn't like that. I didn't say I still want 5 children. I just said that before my dream was 5 children.
I'm going to ask you that question in maybe like 3 years.
Oh, well,
If
if
you
I
still want.
still want, I want one more now. I think I
It's
want
going to
one
come
more,
back.
and that's it. I just want one more, and that's it. That's it.
You're still young. You're still young.
Oh no, I'm not. I'm not the youngest chicken in the. I'm 30.
I had my first kid at 40. Well, my only.
Oh, so you did good.
Well, I had a similar thing where I had a fibroid fall out of me, and it was from fasting, and I didn't even know I had one. And I saved it, and I brought it to my doctor. I saved it. I put it in the freezer because I couldn't get an appointment for a while. I put a little Ziploc bag, and I brought it to the doctor, and I said, "Tell me what this is." You know, when something comes out of you and you don't even know something's in there in the first place, you're like, "What was that?" And was that part of my body or somebody else's body? You're like, and now that you have children, you know, it's like even more freaky when you realize that like their cells are living in you and stuff too, right? So not freaky, it's beautiful, but it's just, you know, women's bodies are very complicated. So I was like, hey, can you just tell me what this is? And, you know, lo and behold, it was that kind of tissue. And I had no idea, but I did, you know, going back, I did have very heavy periods and my doctors never, you know, were concerned about it. And I wasn't trying to get pregnant at that time, but I was writing my master's thesis on fasting. So I was trying a bunch of fasting for about a 5-month period. And that's when it happened.
Now, isn't that something? The fact that that's another thing. You know, I work at Double Dutch Aerobics. And so we end up having these conversations and we have a student that says she had heavy periods, but you know, it's like whatever. And I'm like, huh? And she's suffering from back pain and she thought it was from class. But we talked and she just stopped taking birth control pills. So now her periods are back with a vengeance. And so I had to ask her, and I helped a couple of close friends with this. Go ask your doctor to test you for endometriosis, fibroids, PCOS, all of the hormonal imbalance tests that will affect your womb.
Yeah.
Why, if we have heavy periods, are doctors not telling us that we need to get tested for those things? I'm going to tell you what they do. They put you on birth control, literally. So before even testing you to see exactly why you have heavy periods, they put you on a synthetic hormone to stop you from being in pain. But no one's dealing with the root cause of why you're in that pain. I used to think it was financial. If I'm being honest, I thought it was these doctors are trying to take advantage of people that don't have it, you know, because I would pay out of pocket. People that don't have insurance. And then I was called it the Kim Kardashian show. I was watching her fertility episodes because that clearly was intriguing to me because she struggled to have children after her first 2 kids. And when I saw the doctors offer her every single surgery and test under the sun, no one was dealing with nutrition. I thought, oh, that wasn't a personal attack on me. In every aspect, whether you are financially well off, whether you pay out of pocket as an entrepreneur, whether you have great insurance, either way, the doctors are trying to get you to be clients. And then when they know that you can pay, they're really trying to get you to do 100 million surgeries. And I watched her do almost all of them because you think, well, at least I have this privilege of being able to try everything, right? And this is what the top doctors are telling me to do. The one thing she didn't do was go to nutrition. It just spooked me out because I realized that all women are in trouble in those offices. All of us are uninformed. It's not a financial, you know what I mean, differentiation. Women, period, are at the mercy of their doctors. And it needs to be that they're one source of information and that we know about nutrition as another source of healing.
And clearly, because fasting is one of the modalities that can change a situation like that, fasting has different degrees to it, right?
Yeah.
So, like the extremes of the length of time that you were able to do on a water fast example, not everybody will be as tough as you. I mean, I want to say that because I think it's tough. I've not done it.
It's not tough to me. You know what's tough? Doing IVF and sticking your body with needles. It's tough being open on a table, them taking your womb out. They take your womb out, take the fibroids out, and then put it back.
Mm-hmm.
Water is way less tough than getting put to sleep. Like, to me, that is way more tough. Even when I coach women, the language is important. So what's more tough is that risking your fertility. You know, there are people who died on the table after these surgeries. You know what I'm saying? That's tough. That's tough. Drinking water from BJ's for 17 days might be a little difficult, but financially it's not tough. The risk on my health literally is not tough. It's like the language is so. I have a friend that just got pregnant off of IVF. Mind you, I want to be clear. When I wanted to become a mom, I honestly didn't really care. I wanted to become a mom. And it was just like which way was better for me. And my friend just did IVF, and I'm so happy for her because her baby is due in May. That's tough.
Mm-hmm.
Do you hear IVF stories? Like,
oh, yeah.
Those women are brave, they're tough, they're going through with it. That's tough. And that takes discipline. I just find that there's no way to avoid it. Like, if you want children and you have a problem, you might have to get over a hump. So whether that's water fasting and changing your diet, whether that's taking a huge risk and getting on someone's table, whether that's sticking your body with hormones, you just have to choose one. But I don't want to say that I don't consider water fasting to be the hardest, because to me, it's actually the least risk. You understand what I'm saying? In terms of, like, you don't end up becoming infertile because of water fasting.
Yeah, fasting it's actually in Ayurveda, it's considered a gentle type of cleansing therapy. We have some that are not gentle,
Right.
but that's considered a gentle cleansing therapy.
Yeah. And honestly, I think sometimes it's mind blowing that it's that simple. It's just like, I remember thinking, even when I saw the video, I was like, oh, she just drank water for 21 days? And that's it? Like, in our minds, sometimes it just can't be that simple. Like, it just can't be. Water, you telling me the thing that God gave us from the earth? Wait a minute. It's really that simple? And it is. It really is. And that's why I guess prayer and things during that time is also a part of the healing journey, because you have to accept that it's that simple. Like, sometimes I think as human, I think we try to run, it has to be harder than that. You know what I mean? Or it has to be more to it than that. You can't tell me you healed from drinking some water. You know what I mean? Like,
Yeah.
I think sometimes we just have a hard time accepting that it's that simple.
That the body has a
That
self-corrective
the body
mechanism.
has, yes. I think we have a hard time. It's like in our minds, it's like, no, it can't be. Even in terms relating it to double dutch, sometimes people who haven't learned in a long time, we teach them in less than a minute. And with some people, we'll watch their brains try to make it hard again. Because they've been learning, they've taught themselves, or they believe so long that it was hard, that when we show them, and literally at first I started laughing, and even sometimes we could see it, like, it's so hard to like videotape it, but we could see when a person accepts that it's that easy. And we could see when a person is going, it just can't be this easy. Like, my whole life I've been trying to learn. It's really this simple. And then, we've been doing this for years, so we know words to encourage them, or And we could see when the switch happens, when they just start listening and let go. Because you sometimes as humans, especially so with children, it's a little easier. But adults, because we've kind of been in our ways for a long time. When something is so simple and we don't understand it, we'll actually try to make it difficult again.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean?
Yeah, I do know that. Beautiful. Well, Michelle, what's your favorite thing about motherhood?
My favorite thing is, oh man, it's so many things. I guess the love. Like, after I had children, it made me look at my parents and go, oh, that's how you love me. Okay, I get it. So it's like, there's always more. Like, as a kid, you didn't know what romantic love was. You know what I mean? When I became a mother, it was like a different color of love that I haven't experienced. It's not the love I have for my friends. It's not the romantic love that I have for my husband. It's not the love that I have for my parents. It's like this different color of love. It's like, oh, like, oh God. And then even I remember I was scared to have a second child because I thought, well, I just can't love anybody as much as I love Sean Jr. Like, it's impossible. And then I had another baby and I was like, oh my God, there's more love? God, I'm impressed. Like, I didn't know. And now that fear of having more children is just like, you literally grow another heart. There's just another one. And so it's just this adventure of love that I'm experiencing being a mom that I didn't know. They stretch me in ways like I want more in my life for them. Like they will make me want more for myself, if that makes any sense. And I thought I was satisfied with certain things. And it's just like, no, I want more. I'll say the one thing I learned, and then I know I talk a lot, I'm sorry. The one thing I learned was just like, because I do an abundance meditation, and I learned, like we're all deserving of abundance. Not because you did something, not because you wrote a book, or not because you're successful in double Dutch aerobics. You deserve abundance in your life because you're God's child, period. And the reason why that hit me different after having children is because I looked at my children, and Sean Jr. didn't have to learn his ABCs to be deserving of everything in this world. He's deserving because he's my child. And so that's how God looks at us. You understand? It just made me feel more deserving just from being. Just because I'm here, I'm deserving of abundance in my life, or I'm worthy of everything. And I was like, oh, I'm God's child the way my children, you know what I mean? The way I see them is the way God sees me. And so, yeah, it just gave me a whole different meaning of life. The love is just insane.
So beautiful. Michelle, thank you so much for being here today. I want to tell the listeners, can you tell them where to get in touch with you if they want to learn about your work with fibroids or also double Dutch aerobics,
Yes.
Which is amazing.
So our Instagram for double Dutch aerobics is double Dutch aerobics. If you Google double Dutch aerobics, everything will come up. So doubledutchaerobics.com, Google double Dutch aerobics at Gmail, and double Dutch aerobics on Instagram and Facebook. And for my fibroids coaching program, it's Hey Michelle Clark on Instagram, Hey Michelle Clark at Gmail. And yeah, that's all. I'm actually about to go teach today at the Double Dutch Aerobics Studio. We have class at 6:30. I'm about to go teach now. My husband's running back with all 3 kids. And we're about to go teach class now.
Awesome. Thank you so much for being here, Michelle. And thanks for your time and sharing your story. Thank you so much.
Thank you for having me, Heather. I appreciate it.
I want to thank you for listening to this show. It brings me great pleasure to provide this content to you. I also want to let you know that I'll be making some very amazing announcements soon. And if you're not already on my email list, then I encourage you to go over to my website and subscribe to my email list so that I can keep you informed about these announcements that are going to be coming up very soon. So my website is heathergrish.com. That's Heather, GRZYCH.com. And I look forward to getting these important announcements to you very soon and connecting. Thank you for tuning in and dropping in with us today. Don't forget to subscribe, rate, and review this podcast. I really want to hear your feedback. To learn more about my work, visit heathergrish.com. That's Heather, GRZYCH.com. And meet me here next time on The Wisdom of the Body.